Hey guys, it's Jordan and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be talking about my most anticipated releases for the first half of 2017. So any book that comes out between January and June. I don't have a whole lot on my list this year. A lot of these are sequels to series that I've been reading, so not a lot of new things that are coming out in the first half of the year that I'm like super excited about and really anticipating. So if there is a really good debut novel or first book in a new series by a favorite author or whatever that you're really excited for, tell me. Look, it's yelling at me. It yells at me like hourly. How many steps do I need? 13. Hold on. So the first book on my list is Caraval by Stephanie Garber, and this comes out on January 31st. This one was actually present at BEA this past May, and I really want to get my hands on a copy of it, but I didn't make it to BEA in time for the drop of this book. I've been anticipating it since. I've heard it compared to the Night Circus, just a YA version of it. And I haven't read the Night Circus, so I don't really know what that comparison means exactly, but I'm expecting it to be really magical and whimsical. I believe it's about a young girl who has always wanted to go to Caraval. It's this annual festival that happens in her land. One year she gets to go, and I believe she gets kidnapped and gets wrangled into the show somehow. That's about really all I know. People are really excited for it. I've been hearing great things about it. Next we have Wires and Nerves, Volume 1 by Marissa Meyer, and this also comes out on January 31st. This is her first graphic novel. It follows Aiko, who is a character from the Lunar Chronicles. She's this little android whose personality chip has malfunctioned, so she has a bigger, bolder personality than androids are supposed to have, and I'm not really sure what the actual plot of this graphic novel is, just that we're following Aiko, and Aiko is an adorable character. I really enjoyed her in the Lunar Chronicles. She's very witty and she is a fangirl in her own right. I'm excited that we get to have more about her in a different format because I'm not a huge graphic novel reader. I'm really interested to see how Marissa Meyer tackles the graphic novel genre and how I feel about it. Next we have Raisa Fire by Sophie Jordan, and this comes out on February 7th. This is the sequel to Reign of Shadows, and this is a fantastical retelling of Rapunzel. We follow a young girl who is trapped in a tower. She isn't allowed to venture outside the tower because her land is cloaked in darkness. There are these creatures that live in the forest around their tower who feed on human flesh. They're very much like zombies, but they're not zombies. Enter this hunter. This crazy adventure ensues. I really enjoyed the first book. It ended on a crazy cliffhanger. I'm definitely getting my hands on this very soon when it comes out because I'm super excited to see how they solve the problem that happened at the end of the first book. Next we have Given to the Sea by Mindy McGinnis, and this one comes out on April 11th. Oh my goodness. Okay, so I just pulled up the synopsis on Goodreads for this one because I'm not actually sure what it's about. I just know that it's a new fantasy novel from Mindy McGinnis, and she hasn't done a fantasy novel before. So that alone really intrigued me. I really want to get more into her works, and since I'm such a fan of fantasy, I felt like I would really enjoy this. This synopsis is so convoluted. I really don't understand what this book is about. What I'm gathering mostly though is that there's this girl who is born to be given to the sea. When she comes of age, her body will go into this frenzied like dance that will propel her into the sea, and her very flesh, because of her lineage, will like satiate the sea so that the sea doesn't attack her kingdom. However, before she can give herself to the sea, she has to produce an heir. There is this boy from another kingdom who comes in contact with her and could potentially be forced into providing an heir with her because he also has to provide one for his kingdom. I'm not really sure, but it sounds really interesting and like nothing I've ever read before. Super unique, very intrigued. Next we have Always and Forever Lara Jean by Jenny Han. This one comes out on May 2nd. This is the third and final book in the To All the Boys I Loved Before trilogy. Originally it was only supposed to be a duology, but then surprise, there's a third book. I'm actually really glad that we were getting a third book in the series because I felt like there was more room for a third book. I'm glad that we're getting this last book. The first book follows Lara Jean in high school. She's 16 years old, and for every boy that she's loved, she writes them a letter and then puts it in a hat box. But then one day she's at school and a couple of the boys in her school get letters from her. So the book is a kind of like a mystery of who sent out the letters, what's going to happen now that these boys know how she feels about them, what are the consequences of this. I'm really excited to see how she wraps everything up in this third book. Also on May 2nd, we have A Court of Wings and Ruin. A Court of Wings and Ruin by Sarah J. Maas. This is the third book in the ACOTAR trilogy series. It's a 6-book, 7-book series, but the first 3 books our one trilogy, and then whoever survives book 3 will be featured in the next 3 to 4 books. Most people know what this book is about. The first book is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, following a young girl who slays a wolf in the woods one day, thinking it's just a wolf. Turns out it's a fairy who's disguised themselves as a wolf, and when you kill a fairy, it's punishable by kidnapping you and taking you to the fairylands. I'm really excited for this last book. Man, shit's gonna hit the fan. I can only imagine. I wonder if this one is also going to be a retelling of something else. I've seen her pin some Snow Queen stuff on her board. That would be really cool. It's to go to the winter court. And finally, also on May 2nd, busy day, we have Dark Prophecy by Riordan, which is the second book in the Trials of Apollo series. We follow the god Apollo, who has been punished by his dad Zeus for events that happen at the end of Heroes of Olympus, and he has to prove to Zeus that he is worthy of being a god again. He gets mixed up with a couple really funny, awesome sidekicks, does have to venture to Camp Half-Blood to ask the help of other demigods on different quests. I'm really excited to read this. I love the Percy Jackson world. I love Rick Riordan. I will read just about anything he writes, especially if it involves Percy Jackson, because I love those books so much. I've been reading them since I was a senior in high school, so I'm very, very excited to have the next book. Next we have Lord of Shadows by Cassandra Clare, which comes out on May 23rd, and I'm so excited for this book. It's probably one of my most excited books of the year. You know what I'm trying to say. Most anticipated books of the year. This is the second book in the Dark Artifices trilogy. This one's going to tie really nicely into the Last Hours. I can't remember if it's Lost or Last. I really enjoyed Lady Midnight. It was nice and refreshing to just jump into the world. The first book ended like with a lot of things up in the air, a lot of theories running around. Am I ready for the feelings in this book? Probably not. Bring it on. Make me hurt. On June 27th, we have an Untitled novella being published by Sarah J. Maas. This is the Kale Novella. So this follows everything that Kale was doing during Empire of Storms that wasn't included in the book. I guess, according to Sarah J. Maas, she felt like there was too much to Kale's story if she wanted to explore that southern continent too much to include it in Empire of Storms. This novella is 208 pages long. I mean, that's a really long novella. There are books on my shelves that are 208 pages long, so I can see where she's coming from on taking him out of the original story and making a novella for him. So I'm really excited to see what he was doing in the southern continent. I want to learn more about that culture down there. It's a whole nother aspect of this world that we're getting. The fact that it's being published as like an actual book to add to my shelf makes me so very happy. I hope it's just as beautiful as the other ones. Will Kale be on the front instead of Selena? Then we have Writin of Serpens by Eleanor Herman, which comes out on June 27th. This is the third book in the Blood of Gods and Royals series that I'm obsessed with. I started it last year and was completely blown away by it. It's a reimagining of Alexander the Great with fantastical elements thrown in there as well. She does also bring in some characters that are from Persia and some other characters that are from Egypt, so you get a lot of this ancient times and culture across that entire area. Can't wait to see what happens in this next book because the first two really blew me away. Next we have Midnight Jewel by Richelle Mead, and this one comes out on April 25th. This is the sequel to The Glittering Court. I actually really enjoyed The Glittering Court. A lot of people had very negative feelings towards it or mixed opinions. It's essentially a historical fiction novel, but it's a fantasy world, but the fantasy world feels a lot like our actual history. However, I really thought the approach to the story was very interesting. Rather than writing 3 consecutive books, she's writing each character's story in a separate book. You don't learn all the pieces to the story because you're only getting things from one point of view. I think this one's following Mira. She has some secrets in her past. She sneaks out a lot, isn't really forthcoming with information at all. So I'm really interested to see what her backstory is. I'm really excited to fill in more of those blanks and learn more about this world and what's really going on here. And finally, the last book I have on here is The Dark Colleen by Kresley, which doesn't have a release date, but it says spring 2017, so I'm gonna throw it in here at the end. Books in this series have been known to be pushed back multiple times, and I'm not banking on the fact that it'll come out in the spring, but I hope it will come out this year at least. It is the final book in the Arcana Chronicles series, and I love that series so much. It's about this group of kids who survive the apocalypse, and the apocalyptic event evokes these abilities in these kids that are reminiscent of the tarot cards. So each child who survives the flash will inhabit a tarot card, and they're in this really big, epic, centuries-long game, and whoever wins the game will live in immortality until the next games are invoked. I think this is the last book. I know that she said in the past there's supposed to be at least 5 books. I don't know if that means that there will only be 5 or if we'll get more after this. Super excited for this one. So those are all the books that I'm most excited for the beginning half of 2017. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I'll talk to you very soon. Bye!